What's up, guys? Welcome back for another episode for the Solo Omega series. This one we're going to be going over. We're just going to be showing some ratting. I'm going to be just kind of doing some Golem stuff. We're going to do a Pith Penal Complex. I'm going to show you kind of how that works. Show you kind of what the ticks look like there. Give you an idea of kind of how I run that. I think the idea with this series is kind of every episode show you a little bit of a different piece of kind of like how I earn ISK in Null, and whether it be ratting, whether it be like doing exploration or mining or PI or whatever, or doing jump raider stuff or manufacturing. But the idea is that, like, if you're watching this series and you're following the series, then you're going to start to kind of like build an understanding and a knowledge base of like how to actually diversify your gameplay, and in order to have revenue streams coming in from multiple different places. So for this episode in particular, we're going to be going with the Golem here. We're going to be going and doing a 8 of 10 rated site, which is the Pith Penal Complex, and show you what that kind of looks like. It's going to be more, you're going to have more revenue on the bounty side rather than the loot side. The 7 of 10s and I would say the 7 of 10 is probably the best one for loot. I've pulled billions. I've pulled anywhere between 500 million to $1 billion out of that. It's a lot easier to run as well, and it's just when you get it, it's great. But this will probably be a little bit longer episode than the first one, just because Pith Penal Complex is 3 pockets. There's a lot of targets. There's a lot of moving, and there's a lot of things going on. But like I said, every single video, I hope to like give you as much information around the topic that episode is covering. So this episode, we're going to be talking a lot just about like running those rated sites with the Golem in particular. And I will put this fit in the description so that you can see kind of how I run it. The one thing I will note that I should note is, like, I would recommend running a micro warp drive just to make going from acceleration gate to acceleration gate a little bit faster. I don't run it on the fit that I'll have in the description, but if you can fit one in, and it's one of the biggest recommendations. I'm probably actually going to switch. I'm probably going to drop my target painter in lieu of a micro warp drive, just to kind of help with just the speed at which I do certain sites. So we're going to go ahead and get started. We're going to go and run out and do this Pith Penal Complex, and just kind of show you how that looks, and the loot and all that. So let's get at it. So one of the biggest revenue activities that I do in Null, being solo, is going to be combat sites. You have to understand that, like, the loot can be good, it can be bad sometimes. There's days where I've pulled GIST-X type modules, so one of these sites could be worth like $1 billion. I've run a site that's gotten me over $1 billion in faction modules, and then there's other days where it might be just like 500 million or whatever. So what we're going to do is we're going to run this Pith Penal Complex. This is a rated site that is 8 of 10 essentially. Now I'm kind of, let you see what it looks like. It's been probably several months since I've actually ran these, so forgive me if I'm a little rusty. I've just kind of like, more recently gotten back into Null and gotten kind of set up. Well, I'll kind of show you what this process kind of looks like. This is a Torp Golem, which I'll put in the description. So normally what I'll do is I'll just kind of warp in, and the trick here is we're going to want to Bastion up pretty much immediately. And then I'm just going to start targeting stuff that's, close by. And then we're just going to start taking stuff down. And then we'll be using our shield booster as needed. So I'm just going to give 1 launcher each. And then we're just going to be kind of just going through it. Once I get down to around 4 or 5 ships left, then I will start, put 2 on that one. But once I actually get down to like 4 or 5 ships, I'll start, I'll come out of Bastion and start moving towards the gate, which is the most time consuming thing about this whole process. But as you can see, things move pretty quick. It usually doesn't take that long. There's 5 rooms here, and I don't loot anything except for in the last 3. I just loot the commanders essentially. So we're going to go ahead and turn on our booster, which I actually I spend a lot on my booster. I'm running a Gist X type large, which is really decent. And all I'm doing now is I'm just, basically taking out things that are essentially in range. And I'm not even really worried too much about drones yet. You don't really need the drones for anything that's up, except for like frigates and stuff like that. Zoom out a little bit here so we can kind of see a little bit better what we're doing. The ISK payout for these is pretty decent as well. I'm running precision scripts in both computers. And really, it's just kind of I'm going through the process here. Let's see. I have a Bastion range of about like 51 with these Rage torpedoes. So definitely want to keep that in mind. We'll try to focus a little bit so we can kind of speed through this a little bit. We do have 5 rooms to go through here. And I'm just keeping targets up. And also just keeping in mind that you're always watching null or local as well. The good thing about running complexes or rated sites is they have to scan them down in order to get to you. So if you see something pop in local, you have the chance to come out of Bastion and warp to safe. Once I usually cap out, once I get my shield all the way back up, I usually just down cycle the booster just to save on cap as much as I can. And that's our first reload cycle. So we got a good majority of the targets down. I need to resort my overview, I think, to ship class. I usually say battleships for last, but this is actually working out pretty well. We're just kind of waiting on reloads at this point. It's kind of like the slowest bit, other than what I'm going to do is, since I'm already in Bastion, I'm going to go and click on this gate. I'm going to go ahead and approach it. And that means when I come out of Bastion completely, I'll start moving towards it. Target up some more. I use a tractor beam basically just to get the commanders and loot them faster. 35. So what the reason it's a little bit slower on the ones that are further out is because of basically torp travel time. But we have only looks like 4 targets that are kind of out of range. So I'm going to drop those. We'll kind of focus up on the ones that we can reach. We'll throw the booster on again just to rebuild that a little bit. And what we can do is we can get everything that's in range essentially, and then come out of Bastion and start moving. And I'll usually just kind of move and shoot. The DPS isn't that great, but let's see. We're gonna go ahead and down cycle Bastion. It allows me to kind of kill the last few targets while also moving to the next pocket. I usually run either a micro jump drive or a micro warp drive, but you sacrifice a little bit of cap doing it, with everything I like running. So the time we spend actually traveling to the gate and killing everything, we're kind of rebuilding our cap a little bit as well, because we're not going to be too worried about the shield booster. We want to kind of have our cap kind of refilled a little bit before we get to the next pocket. 52, 49, so we're going to get this guy down. Right now we're just looking at targets that are in our range. We can also just switch to Javelin if we wanted to, but I don't really see the need just yet. Looks like we're on the move. And the gate is 35k away. I'll probably edit out the travel time once all the targets are down. Even with the micro warp drive, I think you can get up to 600 meters a second, so it's not crazy fast, but it kind of is what it is. And even at 35k away, a micro drum drive's not going to do you a whole lot of favors because you'll overshoot it. But in some cases where like you're 70 to 100k away from the gate, you can just jump to it and be closer than you were. All right, we're going to cut these torps. We're going to go ahead and target up these other ones and see if we can go and get some of these other targets down. We might just have to Bastion up again for one cycle just to get them down, since the damage disparity is so great. We'll get this battleship down. Really what I want to kind of illustrate here is kind of like how the Golem performs in an 8 of 10, and also showing you the loot that I kind of get on the back end. The other way you can kind of force these complexes by getting escalations, by running like hubs and stuff like that, which you'll have to travel a little bit for. I'll go over like escalations probably in another episode. I usually carry my Golem in something like a dread, throw it in the ship maintenance bay, jump as close as I can to where my escalation is. But for the most part, I just kind of like scan every day when I log in, look at what I can do, whether it be like relics or data sites. If there's any complexes, then I will run those. And then if there's no data sites or relic sites or combat sites, then I'll just do like merc mining, or I'll work on PI, whatever the case may be. That's kind of what dictates my my day. We're gonna have to do another cycle, I think. It's been a minute since I've actually done this stuff, so it's like kind of getting used to the rotation. All right, looks like everything's in range. So now we just gotta get everything down, and once we get 4 launchers on these battleships, we'll get good to go. Once all the targets are down, I'm just gonna reload, essentially turn every module off, and then just kind of travel towards the gate, which I'll probably just cut that travel time out, show you kind of just the pocket and the looting, which is kind of more or less what we're after here. The bounty rewards you get for doing this is really good. See, we got an ESS ticks here. We haven't got a tick yet. We're still in between a tick. It does get kind of annoying, like if a nuke comes in, like you have to get off grid, and like you have to start back at pocket 1 and kind of travel all the way back through it. But the rewards and the loot from the commanders are 100% worth it. All right, so now we're going to turn everything off, do a reload, and we're still approaching. So we just got to come back in another 19k, and we'll be ready to go. As far as looting goes, I've done it in the past where I've dropped a tractor unit in each pocket, and then I've come back and salvaged and looted everything. But for the most part, I've found that the value, kind of like the same with data sites, the value is just not really worth the time investment. I would rather spend the time I took salvaging and looting in. I'd rather be like scanning or running a relic site, or running a 7 of 10 or a 6 of 10, or running a hub or a haven, because the Golem is also really good at havens and really good at hubs and stuff like that, and sanctums. Probably sanctums are probably the best, right? Because like you have a lot of battleships there, and you're able to get pretty good ticks doing it. You just gotta be a little bit careful with like possible dread spawns and things like that, but it rarely happens. So just traveling, and then by the time we get there and we warp through the gate, we'll be at pocket 2, and we'll have our cap will be refreshed and all that. And essentially, once we're inside the circle, we're gonna punch it, right? We're gonna punch it as soon as we can. And so I got a top-down view going right now, so I can just kind of see exactly when we kind of go over it. And the further you go into the complex, technically the more safer you are, right? Even if the nuke comes in and they scan your site and they warp to it, they're going to go into gate 1. I mean, yeah, they're probably going to be in a fast tackle ship and they'll be able to get from gate to gate to gate, but like you only have to really have about 30 seconds to come out of Bastion or less and then warp off to a safe location. So it's a little bit, it's a lot easier to be caught if you're doing just like a normal combat anomaly, right? Because if there's not a whole lot of sanctums in the system you're running in and you're running something like a Golem, then they're going to assume that you're doing one of the higher difficulties. And so they're going to go immediately to those sanctums and start looking for you. We're going to go and hit activate gate. I think we got to come down a little bit more because it's a little lower. All right, there we go. On to pocket 2, and we've got about 84% cap. Once we land, we're going to go Hardener, Bastion, and then our computers and start work again. We don't have to worry about looting until pocket 3, I think, if I remember correctly. So we'll be basically looking at the commanders. I'm going to sort by type. And I'm going to pop it down where we got destroyers first. And then we're going to go ahead and approach. And I think we can go ahead and kind of approach a little bit. We get these destroyers. Get up to momentum. Once they start actually red boxing you is when I usually start the Bastion process. Because that's where our tank kind of comes in. We're going to take out the destroyers first because they're essentially pretty much one-shotted. And it allows us to take a lot of damage off the field, which is how I should have sorted for pocket 1. Go and turn the booster on. Oh, they're way out of range. So we're actually going to have to go distance. Go and cut all these targets. We're going to have to let those destroyers come in a little bit, which is fine. We'll get these guys right here. A lot of my targets are being... I have target back on, so we're going to have to worry about that a little bit. So we can take some of these guys. We should be managing targets at this point. Anything that's over 50, I'm kind of just getting rid of, and I'm replacing it with things that are within 50. One battleship down. Destroyers go down pretty quick. Two, one. You'll take the most damage in the first few minutes of the pocket just because everything is up. We can also jav. A little bit less damage on... Actually, it's like half the damage is on the javelins, but the range is a lot better, which is going to allow us actually... We might actually switch to javs just to get these destroyers down once we kind of clear our immediate vicinity here. But I don't think it will be really necessary because once we actually get some of these targets down that are around us, these destroyers are going to be in range regardless. So we should be good to go. Let's get a few more targets up. Got one at 32, one at 44. Go and activate on this 40. We can hold 10 targets. So when you're doing it correctly, you can pretty much always be targeting. As you can see now, we're really starting to take everything down. There we go. Now we're cooking. You get to the point where you're almost destroying faster than you can target. If nothing comes into range while we get these 4 targets down, we're going to see if we can switch to jabs. Because everything is a little bit at 60. We got some stuff coming in. These are basically the last 3. I think we'll kill these guys and then we'll switch to jab just to keep kind of progress moving. We can pretty much downcycle at this point. We can downcycle the shield boosters since we're at full. And we got a lot of the damage off the field. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start switching jav on these guys that have stopped. That auto, we have to redo that one. But I'm going to go switch jav on everything. We're just going to take the time and go ahead and reload jav We can keep going. I think we've got, this will be jab on everything. Go and throw jab on these dudes. And we have a range of 91. And we're going to take these destroyers down because they're going to cause us the most problems. So now we're back in business. That's the biggest downside of this, is just the reload process. But the amount of damage and the amount of destruction you can do for each load cycle is decent. And like these jabs are doing pretty good on these lower ships. This makes it to where we don't have to stress too much about range, because everything's kind of actively moving towards us anyway. And as we lock targets, we're essentially just deleting them. I always get anxious when I'm running these, because it's like, you know, the first 3 pockets is just like, okay, it's really good bounty, you know, payout. You're really getting a good bounty payout, but it's like you really just want to start opening those commander wrecks and kind of like seeing how lucky you get. Check our tick. We still haven't seen an ESS tick yet. Go put these 2 targets on. Waiting to lock up. Once we get to pocket 3, we're going to start sorting by type, so we can see the commander a little bit easier. And we'll be basically approaching the commander wreck whenever we come out of Bastion until we get into tractor beam range. And then we'll basically loot and then go straight for the gate. We can also just tractor, once we get into range of the commander, we can tractor beam it, and then we can approach the gate, because we'll just kind of drag the wreck with us as long as we stay in range, which is helpful. Everything is in range except for that last heavy missile battery. It's about 5 kilometers too far out, but that's fine. Go and throw Painter on some of these battleships to kind of help speed this up a little bit. All right, so we got 17 mil tick, 17 mil tick, and 24 mil on ESS side. Not bad. Go for this gun right here. Loading. Let's go ahead and finish off these battleships. Got this one up. Go to the bore on the gun. We're out of range. Is that? That's 83. We're out of range on just one, so which will be fine. We can close in on him. The other thing too is I'm actually still running my +5 implants. If I ran Hydras, we'd be doing this a little bit faster, but I'm really just kind of focused on training right now. I have a full Hydra set for this as well, which just helps with rate of fire, capacity. I'll probably show that in a another episode when we do a little bit more with the Golem, just to, like, so you can see kind of a good comparison. All right, I'm gonna approach this at 83. Double down on these battleships. We're gonna come out of Bastion. We're gonna approach this last one that's still out of range. We gotta close it by like 5K, and then we'll be able to take it down, and then start moving towards the gate. Excuse me. All right, we are out of Bastion now. We're gonna start moving. Turn the painter off. We're going to put the rest of the torps on this gun that is in range. That way we can do a reload cycle while we're still closing in. We got about 2K to go. Yeah, a lot of people don't like missiles because of the flight time, but I actually don't mind them. Most of the time, when I'm running Pith Penal Complex, is about the only time I really have to worry about like travel time. For the most part of everything else, I'm pretty close in. You know, it was 74. We actually got to come in. I forgot. We're out of Bastion. My bad. We're still kind of moving a little bit, so we're going to do a reload while we're waiting. We got him, though. And luckily, this last gun is near where we need to be, too. So this one's going to take a little bit to get to. And, you know, 62 is going to be quite a bit of travel time. So I'm going to go ahead and approach the gate directly, because we're just going to inherently get closer to the last target as well. All right, we're going to Bastion up just so I can show you another trick that helps you kind of like AFK some of these sites as well. I'm going to Bastion up literally long enough just to kill this dude, because Bastion, we're at 91, so we can just throw some volleys out. And there it is. Done. This allows us to free up from being targeted. Go and reload. So, another trick that I do, especially if you're not running with a micro drive like I am, or a micro jump drive, and you have like this 50k kind of trek to go to the next gate, then what you can do is, this is why I run a cloak as well. So I'm essentially going to turn off everything like we normally would, do a reload cycle, all of that, and then I'm just going to go into cloak. It's going to bring our velocity down, but it protects us from, you know, craziness. So if like you have to AFK while you're traveling and everything, it's going to take you longer, but you can essentially kind of passively do this. But for the purpose of like kind of just showing you this complex side, we're not gonna do that. But I'm probably gonna skip ahead to where we get a little bit closer in. I'm probably gonna end up putting a micro warp drive back on this bit of mine, just so that we can do these a little bit quicker. But hopefully the commander loot is worth the time spent. All right, now we're gonna move into pocket 3. I switched back to Scourge Rage, just so we can kind of work a little bit on, work things down a little bit faster. We're going to want to identify where the commander is, and then we don't want to really shoot at the commander until he can close within like 48 kilometers. That allows us to kill him and then be in tractor range with his wreck while still in Bastion. Okay, never mind. I guess it was 3 pockets. I don't know what I was thinking. 5. All right, so we're going to go ahead and Bastion up, get everything turned on. So our dude is this guy right here, which you can blitz him, but we're going to take these guys down here. We're going to throw out drones actually for this pocket. I don't know why I was thinking it was like 5. Go ahead and get these little dudes turned on. We get everything kind of like in our vicinity, using all the things. The commander is 62 away. We're going to let him close a little bit. We haven't really aggroed to that group over there yet. So we're just going to kind of use that to our advantage. Sort by distance here. We're looking at 51. We're going to pick everything that is within 50 and go ahead and light them up. And that'll probably aggro the group, and they'll start kind of moving towards us. Go ahead and paint this battleship and put a torp on it. Same with the 3 destroyers. And then the drones will start, you know, going out there and kind of taking care of business. Use the drones as a supplement, not necessarily a solution. They're just kind of helping out with the lower ships and just kind of adding a little bit more DPS. We're basically chilling. We're kind of waiting for people we're going to probably wait for these 2 targets to die. and then we're going to switch to jabs, which will allow us to kind of, you know, keep progressing through here. Got all the things on that one ship. Got some reps on that one. All right. Reload jab on everything. We're basically going to have to pick up the pace here. This is the biggest pocket. And so we want everything to go down pretty quickly. So I'm going to probably not be commenting too much until we kind of get a lot of this stuff out of the way. Once they're assigned, now we're going to, because there's so many destroyers on the field, that's like your biggest priority is getting those guys off of there. We need one more target up so we can get this other torp up. This is like the scary part. If you're doing this for the first time, is kind of like getting to the point where you get all the damage off the field and you let your shield kind of balance back out. And that's why I recommend taking out destroyers first, saving battleships for last. Kind of like what I'm doing here, just managing targets that are within range, and they're all closing in on us pretty good. That's all we're doing. We're just trying to keep everything moving. By the time it becomes an issue, we should be good to go. You kind of want to over-target a little bit too, just because things are going to die pretty quick. We're bouncing at about 44% right now for shield. And so all we got to do is just kind of focus up. If I see a battleship like that one, I'm just going to skip over it. Keep going for cruisers, destroyers. Cruisers are kind of our next little goal here. A few more cruisers targeted up. And keep in mind we're doing javelins too, so like our damage is not the best as it could be, but also we've got our drones out there kind of helping us out as well. I'm gonna kind of direct their fire a little bit. Once we get rid of the scroll bar on the overview, we'll pretty much be okay. All right, we're gonna go and take down this destroyer, or this battleship rather. I'm gonna paint him up, and I'm also gonna throw drones on him just to get him out of the way. We're trying to make sure we manage our targets well enough to where we can kind of get a lot of the smaller ships down before our reload cycle. We're coming back. We're bouncing at about 40, a little bit, 44. And we start reloads. Now we can start working on some of these just battleships. We only have a few battle cruisers left. Going to throw 2 on here, and the paint, and then also the drones. I'm going to throw drones and paint are basically on the same target, just to kind of help them out a little bit. We're also just still in the process of rotating through reloads, but as you can tell, our shield's coming back up, and we're doing well on caps. So we've gotten over the hump. He's at 45 right now, but we're still going to save him for last. I'll throw everybody on there. We'll do a just full load on everybody. Get everything loaded up. And we're just kind of look through here. Get this battle cruiser. I think everything else is battleship. So we're gonna go 3 painter drones and just kind of work our way down the remainder of the list. Now we're gonna come off the booster. I'm gonna come off the booster a little bit just to kind of like let it refill a little bit since we're not in any real danger anymore. Going through a fourth module. I think we're gonna group these for the remainder of this. There's a 11 mil tick right there. It was a little bit lower than the first tick just because we had a little bit of a downtime from moving from gate to gate. We'll get these drones on. We're just gonna put everything on each target and kind of work our way down. We're targeting basically everything right now except for the commander. And what we're going to do is I'm actually going to start approaching the commander, even though it's not really going to matter. He's at 45, so once we actually kill him, unless he starts evading us, we'll be able to tractor him. All right, we're going to go and throw booster back on. Looks like we're doing a reload. Everything's in pretty good range for Scourge Rage. So we're going to go Rage again, just to bring our damage up and kind of close this out. You can't paint the commander either, so keep that in mind. All right. Go alpha on this guy. Got some reps on him. It's not going to save him, though. All right, get drones on this guy. Move this to F1 just to make it easier on us. Throw painter up. And this is pretty much the end. You're going to get the Overseer box as well. I think it's worth 80 million when you turn it in high sec, which is another incentive to run these. I just stockpile them essentially, and whenever I like export things back to high sec, then I just kind of load up a bunch of that stuff like that and Morphite and things like that, just to make kind of like jumping other stuff a little bit cheaper. We're going to get both of them down, and then we're going to go and target him up since he'll be the last target. I want to try to get them all within this reload cycle. Go in paint, go in torp, go in drone. Actually, we can get the drones working on the commander at this point, just to soften his shields up a little bit. We got a few more volleys, and we can switch over. And volleys are up. And as you can see, you can't actually paint him, so we're basically down to just our 4 launchers and the drones. Once they start hitting him, you'll kind of see. There we go. And the drones are just kind of there to like just kind of help keep the damage going. Like the drones can't kill him. So now we know we don't have to like really look for him. All right, so recall drones. We're going to go ahead and reload these modules, and then I go ahead and I reseparate after it loads as well. And then we're going to tractor beam. And then basically turn off all the things. Just do a little bit of cleanup. Because I always start off with them split like this, and then I go commander. All right, so let's go ahead and see what we got here. We just literally got like the Overseer tier. Not a great one, but it's better. I mean, it's 80, so it probably ended up being like, close. It'll probably end up being close to like 300 mil run, which wasn't too bad. Pith Penal Complex is better for actual bounty kill payouts. One of the better combat sites you could actually go for is the military complex, which has multiple commander loots and everything like that. So those are some of my favorites. Penal complexes, I don't really ever expect to get good loot out of penal complexes, but I do just kind of expect to get like a high bounty, right? So we got like a 17 and then a 11 mil tick, 32 in the ESS. Got another tick on the way, so you're gonna be looking at like 80 to 90 million on just kills alone, and that's with a 1% corp tax. So I hope this is like, if you want to try doing these complexes, the Golem is great. Yeah, the penal complex is slower, but mostly if I'm doing like I'm trying to focus more on like 7 of 10s, 6 of 10s, and things like that. Some of the lower ones, like I still think that, like I said, the military, the Greece's military complex is probably by far the best. I've pulled literally a billion ISK modules out of that thing. So, all right, so we're docked up. You know, like I said, we got basically the 21st tier Overseer's personal effects, which is going to be worth a flat 80 mil. What I normally do whenever I'm running in, I always have this like corporation hanger that just I have labeled export. This will actually hold all my Overseer stuff. This will hold more fight. This will hold blue salvage from relic sites. Essentially anything that I'm going to just put in a jump freighter or a crane or whatever and take out of null back into high sec and sell in Jita or whatever goes in here. It allows me to kind of keep a track of the value I do from day to day and everything like that. I think probably in the next video I'll go over kind of all the ships that I've got here and like kind of what their purpose is, and you know I've still got a few hulls to actually get a hold of. I still need to get my Phoenix hull. I'm basically waiting and finding one local that I don't have to jump too far. And then I'm also looking for, I got to get my Rourke hull again and a few other things. But we're going to kind of cover a lot of things, a lot of possible things you can do in Null. And that even, we're going to be covering things like Orca mining, fleet mining with the Porpoise. Even though it is solo Omega, what I've always meant by solo Omega is me by myself in my own corporation doing my thing, whether it be with, you know, just my main or my main and a signer alt or my main and some mining alts, right? We don't rely on any other person to kind of like dictate how we do revenue or how we earn or things like that. So if you're a little confused on like what I mean by solo, that's what I mean. But for the most part, you'll see me just running my main for ratting and a lot of things. It very rarely will I bring in alts, and if they do, they're doing passive things like, you know, PI or, you know, falling behind a Rourke or an Orca or something like that. So hopefully you enjoy this episode. Let me know in the comments, you know, what you think and kind of what you would like to see a little bit more of, if you have any suggestions and things like that. I don't know what episode 3 will cover. We might cover logistics and ships and kind of, you know, how you kind of move your assets around and kind of how you just kind of like travel, right? Because like you won't necessarily be in one system when you're running solo Omega. You'll be wanting to move your assets around to capitalize on things like ice or gas or, you know, escalations or things like that. So we'll probably do kind of like a logistics focused episode. We'll kind of show you what I do to move assets around. That will, and that knowledge will help you feel more comfortable about, you know, buying and investing in more ships and more purpose-built ships for different activities to start diversifying everything. So with that being said, thank you for watching. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you guys next time.